Hey fellow golfers, I hope you've been following the first two very important clips of this new mental series. One on why golf psychology or your mental state is so important for golf and for your golf performance as well as for your golf enjoyment. Second, which I've done a clip on just before this one, which is on the need to have a deliberate mental process and to deploy, learn to use, and regularize various mental techniques. So time to begin to unpack all of that and peel into some specific dimensions in more detail. As mentioned earlier, at the end of this series, you'll have a complete mental toolkit to significantly improve your consistency of your performance, your intensity of enjoyment, and the regularity of your game. I will start by outlining 14 key elements or principles that you need to follow for an effective practice system. Then I will delve a little bit into two aspects of a suggested practice system. 3 stages of practice and 3 types of practice, all of which in one form or another you need to think about and deploy. And I highly recommend. The first basic principle is you should develop a practice plan, a very specific, very deliberate, and even a written practice plan. Drawing elements from post-round analysis, post-game, post-competition analysis, and identifying a number of aspects that you want to work on or you need to work on. It may be an area of reading putts better or judging the pace of putts better. It might be that you're having difficulties being consistent out of a bunker to get the shots closer to the pin in bunkers around the green. That might be not just a matter of practice, it might be a matter of having the right wedge with the right balance for your specific sand and bunker conditions. So it might be an aspect you also need to go and look at. It might be that you just want to groove your tempo much better so that you're not rushing your shots. You're hitting well, but you're not being consistent in your dispersion and in your distances because you're tending to try too hard or rush your shots. Whatever it is, write it down. And equally focus on the process and mental process side of your game. So, did you lose your cool? Do you get very tense when you're in the rough, whether it's from your driver or when it's near the green, and so you tend to tense up? So identify these things explicitly and use your practice time to work on those areas and to groove the good areas. So where you are hitting well, where your technique is very good, don't forget to repeat that. It might be that you need to work on one or other aspect of your shot routine, and I will do a dedicated session on shot routines to come. So do subscribe, put the notifications on, lots of exciting stuff to come. So having a deliberate practice plan, and the practice plan would be both for the range and it would be for practice rounds as well as for practice areas around your or a golf course, particularly when it comes to things like bunkers and short game. You need to spend time regularly on practice in whatever form you do it. And you need to do it a lot. The only way to get consistent, and particularly on areas that you're working on and you're improving, is to do it regularly and to do it in volume. However, how you do it in volume is very important, and that comes back to the 3 types and 3 stages that I mentioned earlier. Second principle, work much more and a lot on your short game, your chipping, your bunkers, your putting. At the end of the day, you do many more shots on the golf course in your short game than in your long game. So don't think of practice as only working on your driver or only working on those long shots, be it a hybrid or a long iron. Spend more time and more concentration on your short game. That's likely to considerably elevate your game and improve your performance considerably, and as a result, your enjoyment of the game. Third, replicate course conditions, which is why I referred to doing practice rounds even on your own or with a friend or a partner on the courses or types of courses you play in and the types of conditions you play at. On the range, imagine specific holes, imagine specific shots. So replicate your course conditions. That includes tension. That includes pre-shot routines, shot routines. Replicate course conditions. Fourth, work on different shots for your adaptability and for creativity. So don't just work on one shot. It might be that you have identified something you need to work on, but in your practice system, don't just work on that particular shot. Work on a variety of shots. Why? Because on the course you need to be creative and you need to be quickly adaptable to a different situation. So as much as possible in your practice rounds, especially if it's on the range, work on different shots specific to your course ideally, or the course you're about to go to, or that you are planning to visit on vacation, as the case may be, or play in a tournament. Fifth, with a specific shot, vary it. So do the same shot, but hit it in different ways. Low trajectory, high trajectory, shorter distance, longer distance. So you might be looking at a chip of 20 yards, but can I do it so that I lob it up and it stops? Or can I do it so that it lands well before the final area and then rolls out? So practice the same shot in different ways, even with different clubs. John Rahm, for example, talks about how he practices in the sand with a 4-iron and a 7-iron and a pitching wedge, so that he really masters different types of shots he needs to hit from the sand and has then the confidence to use any club in the bag. Sixth, make it a competition against yourself. So if you're practicing, let's say your putts, do your putts in such a way that you score yourself. For every one you put in, that's great, you take a ball away. For every one you miss, add another ball. So make it a competition against yourself. Give yourself some scoring. And when it comes to some of those techniques, I will give you 1 or 2 examples as well in future clips. Seventh, use various tools and aids, particularly video feedback, but also alignment stakes. Get to know your distances, get to know your trajectory, get to know the type of shots that your swing regularly gives you. It might be a fade, it might be a straight shot, it might be a draw. Use different tools and aids to validate what you're doing, to get feedback. If you are working on something, to know that you're in fact working on it correctly. I've covered a number of tools and aids in other clips, and I'll put 1 or 2 links to them, but you can take a look at my playlists under tools and aids and you will find many there. You know, be it flight scope, Mevo, be it video feedback and drawing lines around your swing under coach's eye, for example, as an app. Use tools and aids to help you. Eighth, actually quite important, use one ball to chip with when you're practicing. One ball in the sand, one ball putting. Don't put 3 down. Why? Because when you're on the course, you're not going to have 3 balls to try to get it into the same hole. You're only going to have the ball that is on the green that you hit on the green. So make it as real as possible. This is actually for that hole. I've got to get this putt in. So use one ball in those close quarter situations to make it as real as possible. Adding the competitive element will even enhance that further. Ninth, in your practice sessions, learn to handle distractions. Actually go to part of the range where there's a lot of noise next to you, or even if you're on the putting green, and learn to tune that out. Learn to focus well so that the noise no longer disturbs you. Handling distractions is key because you'll face that in real life situations, whether it's in a competition and spectators screaming and shouting, whether it's, you know, some playing partners that don't always follow the proper etiquette and keeping quiet while you are hitting and rustling their keys or looking for their marker while you're rustling in the snack that they're eating while you are putting, for example. So learn to tune out distractions and make that part of your practice plan. 10th, and I cannot stress this enough, work on rhythm, posture and balance. Rhythm, posture and balance, and of course add to that grip. Check those elements critically in your practice, because that is going to really affect your ability to repeat shots, to stay calm, to trust your swing. Rhythm, practice, balance, set up alignment, grip, that whole piece that really is part of your shot routine. Practice that very deliberately, repeat that for every shot you do on the practice range or on the course in your practice round, or where you're practicing on the course, whether it's your sand or your putting, etc. 11th, know your distances with every club. So it doesn't matter whether you're a senior or slightly older and you can only hit your 7-iron 130 yards. As long as you know your distances for every club, then you can begin to be much more predictable, and you can also begin to repeat it. You already instinctively know which club to pick up. It's very interesting, Phil Mickelson, what he does is he uses a marker, and on his irons he actually writes down the distances on each of his irons. Of course he doesn't hit his 7-iron 135 yards much further, but whatever it is, doesn't matter. Write that even on your club if you wish. So when you face that situation, you know immediately which club to use. Know your distances. 12th, eliminate guesswork. Get to a point in your practice system where you can trust your swing. So once you've practiced different things, including in the 3-stage process that I'm coming to, get to the point where when you're just then imagining the hole you're on, imagining the shot you have to hit, perhaps it's your second shot or the third shot onto the green, that you are no longer thinking about technique, no longer thinking about your body movement, just instinctively swing nice and smoothly because you've also done your pre-shot routine properly. So eliminate guesswork. That's the point you want to get to. 13. Get to know through your practice system your style, not somebody else's style, your style, your shot shape, your preferred trajectory that you have grooved. So make a note and take a mental note, but also a written note of your shot type, your shot style, your swing type. Because when you're then on the course and you might have out of bounds in one area, trouble, whether it's bunkers or water or another, if you're a fader of the ball or a draw of the ball, low or high trajectory, depending, also taking into account wind conditions, you will adapt for your shot style and shape, not what others are doing, because they may have a different shot style and shape, different type of trajectory. You will see this on the pro circuit. Colin Morikawa, for example, said recently, no pro hits the balls straight. They all have a particular shot style and shape. That's why you see some of them really draw the ball back in, not only deliberately, but actually that's their preferred style. And then they find it more difficult on some holes, which doesn't necessarily fully suit their natural shot style and shape, and they have to learn, of course, as pros, to change their shot style and shape for a particular hole. So maybe if they're a fader of the ball, they get to a hole where they need to draw the ball. It may not be the most comfortable, but they've learned how to do it, and they're very glad to get back to holes where they can fade the ball. Or they fade in such a way that they reduce the fade significantly to be able to at least manage that hole. So get to know your shot style and shape and play each of your respective shots in each respective hole that you're practicing. And then of course you'd replicate that on the course according to that style and shape. Very important. It's a critical part of course management, which I'll come to. Finally, 14. Write down your learnings from your practice session, because it's really important you have some takeaways. What did you do well? Did you manage the distractions well? You learned to tune out, or you found that difficult, so you've got to go back and try some techniques to improve focus, improve relaxation, in which case then you try that again on another session. Write down your positive learnings, but also a few areas that you might still find challenging, because you know you need to continuously work on that. Now, having given you all those principles and a few elements, what is an effective practice system that I'm suggesting? Well, there's essentially two groupings. One is really a three-stage process that I suggest. Stage one is the warm-up stage, where it doesn't matter where you're hitting the ball. You're just trying to get your body warmed up. So this is not the warm-up exercise or stretches. This is actually hitting a golf ball, but warming up your full swing or three-quarter swing. Perhaps try it with both feet together, in fact, to keep that rhythm and tempo smooth. It's just a warm-up session where you're warming up your swing. Don't worry about where the ball is going. That's not the purpose right now. The second stage is where you have a specific technical aspect or body movement aspect that you want to focus on, or the cue that you want to rehearse. So you're just focused on that. You're going to hit the ball again. Don't worry where the ball goes. You're just focusing on that specific element, that specific technique, that specific cue to practice that. Don't worry where the ball goes. Then, having done that, now you're going to hit a golf shot. So you've warmed up, you've focused on your technique, and now you set up and hit the ball as if it is actually the hole. So that's your golf shot, where by now you can eliminate the guesswork. As I said, you're trusting your swing, and now you're aiming for a particular target and for a particular distance with a particular club. So the third stage is your golf shots. And then three types and groupings of practice. One that is common and you see all the time with amateurs in particular is that they just hit hundreds of balls of the same type. So same shot, driver, 30 balls. It's not that helpful because you won't be able to take that onto the course, and it doesn't replicate enough of the conditions that you face on the course. Important to do some block practice, especially if it's a particular shot that you're finding difficult to do, be it your driver or a hybrid or a fairway wood. But don't overdo it and don't rely on it. And in fact, make it a very small part of your practice system. So block practice, same repeated shot and club. The second is random practice. So this is where you are going to really learn creativity and you're going to learn adaptability, particularly for the course. So what you are, on the course itself or in a competition, you're not hitting the same shot repeatedly one after another. You may drive, maybe you're in the fairway, and so then you have a decent second shot, or you may have gone into the rough, now you're doing a recovery shot. So you go from one type of shot and club to another type of shot with a different club, actually repeating hole by hole for the course. So random shots, different targets. Then the third is variable practice. So where you are hitting the same shot, but you want to learn how to hit it differently. You want to learn to do a bump and run for the same distance, or a lob to the same final distance, or a lower trajectory shot. So you may take that same club and try a variety of types of shots that gives you different trajectories, different flight patterns, different landing points, perhaps even slightly different distances for that same club, so that you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this 150-yard shot, but I'm going to do a full shot with a 7-iron. Then I'm going to do a 3/4 shot with a 7-iron. Then I'm going to perhaps take my 8-iron and do a bump and run to the same distance. So variable practice for a similar target and a similar distance. Combining these two things, the 3 types in 3 stages, keeping those principles in mind that I mentioned and listed out earlier, will give you, in my view, a good, solid, effective practice system, and will allow you to achieve a more consistent set of results, an enhanced enjoyment of the game, a more repeatable set of shots, and an ability to manage situations as you come across it, because you've learned the creativity and you've learned the adaptability. So, as I mentioned with John Rahm and in the sand, using different types of clubs. Here you would be well equipped after you do all of this, especially also if you focus on, just to mention one other important aspect, working on recovery shots a lot. A lot of people don't emphasize that enough. Go into the deep rough, go into the light rough, whether it's a fairway or near a bunker, and drop a ball or two and practice it in different ways. In the front of your stance, back of your stance, a steeper hit down, a more shallow hit down. See your results from those, and you will quickly figure out what works better for you, and then try that a couple of times to make sure you have grooved that type of shot. So when you face those sorts of situations, you've learned another aspect of adaptability and creativity that you will then feel very confident about. Well, my friends, I hope that this effective practice system is helpful to you as we move on in the mental series. And the next clip I will do very soon, so do subscribe and put the notifications on, is going to be on a effective course, strategy and plan. See you on the flip side.